On to resentment. Hi, my name's Stefania Pulio, and I'm here with Let's Talk Relationship. And I want to invite you and thank you for stopping by and listening to my talk show, which I have on every week here on Let's Talk Relationship. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Stefania Pulio, and I'm from the Gentleman's Square. And I am a men's love and relationship coach and a certified hypnotherapist. And we're going to be talking about resentment. But before I do, please press that subscribe button so you get all my latest lives, downloads, and all my videos. So, could you be hanging on to resentment, gentlemen, and not even know that you are? Because resentment can sort of be a little tricky. It is like a combination of layers. And when we may not even know that we are actually feeling resentment, it could cause, you know, wedges between us and our partner. It can create conflicts. It can make us feel very uncomfortable. And it can also cause a lot of mental and physical illness within ourselves. And of course, create issues in our relationship, as I said earlier. But what is resentment? Well, first of all, resentment can look different to everybody, okay? But resentment's like when we are angry with someone, when we're holding on to a grudge, when we feel like we have been wronged by our significant other. It may feel like that other person may have said something, may have done something, haven't met our expectations, have betrayed us, has cheated on us, has done some really, serious, has done something that has caused us to feel uncomfortable in our own bodies. Now, resentment is normal. Let me just explain that. It's normal to feel resentment. It is normal to feel angry. It's an emotion. But what we do with that resentment is what's important. How do we navigate through it? How do we realize that we actually are holding on to resentment? And how do we actually let it go? Which is really, really important. Because if we hang on to that resentment, it's not doing us any favors whatsoever. It's not getting us closer to our partner. If anything, it creates a divide. It creates isolation. It creates that wedge that we, you know, want to avoid. We want to grow together with our partner. We want to get closer to our partner. We want to evolve in our relationship. But why is letting go so important? Well, as I said earlier, when we hang on to this resentment, when we hang on to anger, it is not only uncomfortable for ourselves, but that other person may not even know that you're angry with them, right? They may not even know that you're holding this resentment towards them. And it can be unfair because if we are not communicating how we're feeling, um, it's going to be like, I guess it's a bit like this. It's like we create stories in our heads. We're creating this whole big story, and that other person doesn't even know that they are playing a part in your story. They don't even know they're the main character in your story. And they, may not even know that they're the actual villain in your story, right? So letting um, letting dealing with resentment is really important. First of all, I always say it's important to take responsibility for the way that you're feeling. Take responsibility and acknowledge that you're actually feeling angry. You're actually feeling whatever it may be. It may come in the form of, disappointment, sadness, jealousy, fury, um, fear. You may feel resentment, a combination of resentment and fear together. So, taking responsibility, first of all, for that fear, owning it. When you can actually own something as powerful as, as as an emotion of anger and resentment, you have already um, you know, taken the next step that's going to get you closer to releasing and letting go of that resentment. Because if you don't know what you're actually hanging on to, you don't know where you're going. You just can't navigate through it. So, acknowledging and taking responsibility for that resentment is the first step. Now, sometimes we can talk to a trusted friend, we can talk to a family friend, we can talk to even a therapist, if we don't know how to actually, you know, move through that resentment. Something's off, that maybe you had a bit of expectation, your expectations weren't met, and you feel in a certain way. But how do I move on from that? How do I unpack it? These are like really important questions that one can actually ask yourself, because it's like having a little bit of a roadmap as to how to actually let go of resentment. Now, when we actually own it, as I said, and we start asking ourselves, why am I feeling like this? What triggered me to feel a certain way when this person said that? And when you're able to actually talk to that person and without blame, okay, without pointing fingers, that's a number one rule, because that person may feel like they are under attack when you start opening up. And if you start getting really vulnerable and maybe that little bit of resentment and anger starts resurfacing while you're speaking to that person, it can actually make it worse. It can actually, blow up into something that um, is not necessary. And I just want to share with you that this is something that's really happened to me several times. And, I own up to it because, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything until we actually acknowledge that that's the way we're doing it. And what I what happened one time was where, I was suppressing my anger, I was suppressing my resentment, I was not talking about it, and I was making it, like everything was hunky dory with my partner at the time. When in actual fact, it was making me feel even more uncomfortable when we came together. And particularly if he was um, doing things that were triggering in me. And I realized that when I did go to speak to him, I was in my emotion at the time, and it actually created a bigger problem than I anticipated, because at the time I said, I'd shared with a friend, and she said, tell him how you feel, tell him exactly how you feel. And that way, he knows how you're feeling. Now, the same thing can apply with, if you are dating a woman, opening up in when you're in that emotional state can sometimes cause more damage. And that's exactly what happened to me at the time, because I expressed myself. I started pointing fingers, and I started like making or letting him know that he was the cause of my problem, right? In fact, first of all, he didn't even realize he had said certain things, and he didn't even realize that that it had affected me in that way. And it was only then that I realized, well, yeah, he didn't know. So I'm kind of feeling resentful with this person, feeling angry, and expecting this other person to understand how I feel and the reason I feel so angry. And I had an expectation. I came to the realization that it was all my own doing. And often, all too often, we are the main cause of this resentment, because we hang on to it. And you may have heard this statement or this phrase that goes, you know, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I think it was by Nelson Mandela. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I know that someone says it's someone else prior to him. But it is so true. It's like you are actually holding on to that venom, that poison, and still holding on to that, you know, all that anger and expecting the other person to suffer. Or you may lash out and do things in resentment style and revenge and try and get back to that person simply because you're feeling hurt, you're feeling the pain. But let me tell you, it doesn't work out well. That's not the way to do it. Not only because I've done it, it's a known fact. We have to take the responsibility first of knowing, hey, what is it that I'm angry about? How do I feel? And where is this trigger coming from? And it may not be that person. That person may be the catalyst to bring all this emotion up in us, only to encourage us, push us into actually dealing with that resentment, healing from that pain, healing from that trauma that has, you know, brought up all this resentment now. And that's exactly what had happened with me. Um, it really made me have a good look at myself. It made me really dive deep and see, okay, how can I let go of this trauma? Because this resentment that I was feeling with this particular person was the same resentment I had felt with a previous another person that I was in a relationship with. So I could see there was a pattern. Now, sometimes it's hard to realize, it's hard to see that, you know, we're the ones that is responsible for that resentment. We are the creators of our whole life script. And as I said before, until we're really ready to take responsibility and really do something about it, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to hang on to that resentment. We're going to allow it to embody us. We're going to um, make it ours for so long that it's going to create illness. It's going to affect us, physically. It's going to affect our mental health because we're obsessing. We go over and over what that person did to us or how that person, uh, you know, un, un, unfair on us and said things that we didn't want to hear or things that we felt really, you know, um, traumatized by. We have to take that responsibility and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. How can I let it go? Because when we don't do that, unfortunately, it will create friction and problems in our relationship. Why? Because it's going to create a wedge between us. It's going to create, we're going to isolate ourselves. We're going to withdraw, pull back, um, not want to speak, stonewall our partners, or vice versa. And it then, because, we're all mirrors, to each other. And if that person's going to that person feels pushed away and, blocked off and stonewalled, and that person keeps coming close to us to find out, and we're just shutting off, sooner or later, that person's going to walk away, or that person's going to feel that's enough. Or you yourself may decide to end the relationship because you are unable to resolve this resentment that you're feeling within. So before it gets out of hand, before it goes, way over the top and, there's a separation, a divorce, or whatever it is, it's important that we can navigate through and understand that it's a process. Resentment won't go away just like that. You can't just forgive and forget just like that. I strongly believe there is a process. There are steps. There are ways of working through it, but what's important is being prepared to actually let go of that resentment. That's the first step. And then if you just decide, the how will work itself out, okay? Because you are already setting the path and being open to saying yes to letting go of that resentment. So, yeah, that's what I really wanted to share today. And I know that we are all suffering some kind of trauma, some kind of upset, some kind of you know we've had some kind of experience that's left us jaded, that's left us hurt, that's left us untrusting, that's left us a certain way. And that resentment that we hang on to is not doing us any service. It's not servicing us, it's not servicing our relationships, and it's certainly not servicing, our well-being, our health, our mental state, and our physical state. So if that is something that you're struggling with and you need help with, by all means, get help. I know that, a lot of my clients, I've helped with that. And it's, the transformation, once we take that step and once we say yes to, I want to let this thing go. I want to let go of whatever's holding me back, that's whatever's weighing me down. I want to just release it once and for all, and either, move on from this relationship, move on from this trauma, or get closer with that person that you really, really love. And, don't don't really know quite how to go about it. Okay. Give us a give us a DM, message me if you want, someone that you just want to talk about it. I'm available to do that. You can go to my website, The Gentleman Square, www.thegentlemansquare.com, and there is an application form you can fill in and schedule in for a free 30-minute consultation. I'd only be too happy to help, a discovery call, a chat, whatever you want to call it. I'm here for you. All right. So that wraps everything up. Remember, letting go of resentment in your relationship is one step getting you closer to that freedom, to having the relationship that you want, to having that freedom within yourself, and to actually be happy within yourself. It's just getting you closer to having that you know that ultimate and heartfelt relationship with yourself and with others as well. So, if you like this video, please give it a like, press like down below, share it with your friends, and come and join me every week, every Friday here at Let's Talk Relationship. If there's anything that you want me to talk about, feel free to DM me and talk about any topics at all. I'd be here happy to help you. All right. As always, remember, choose love and passion. And I send you lots of love and passion, and I will see you next week. Until then, bye for now.